hour or two here, but for most it's going to stay dry. Again, temperature's not spectacular, but feeling okay in the sunshine. A cooler feel on some of these North Sea coasts as that northerly breeze continues, and that's going to be very evident on Sunday, bringing much more cloud across the country. Quite a grey day and a chilly day as well, but still on Sunday, many of us will be dry.
Join us for a special GB News event.
The celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
From pageantry here at the Palace
to the parties in your street.
We'll bring you 4 days of
unforgettable moments.
Between the 2nd and the 5th of June.
Join us live up and down the country as we share your memories
of Her Majesty's extraordinary reign.
Send us your stories, photographs and videos
at jubilee@gbnews.uk.
Come and celebrate with us
on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christys, on your TV, radio and online. We're with you all the way through until midday with an absolutely massive show for you. Loads of discussion and, of course, loads of your views as well. Make sure you do get in touch with us. gbviews@gbnews.uk. You can tweet us at GB News, or me personally, if you so wish, at Patrick Christys. Cheeky little plug for my own Twitter there. Loads to get stuck into today, ladies and gentlemen. Has Rishi Sunak gone far enough for you to help you with the cost of living crisis? In fact, maybe he's gone too far, because I can't help but feel as though we're all going to end up paying for it one day, aren't we? We're talking about that, some e-scooter madness and football hooliganism as well. What's not to love, people? But first, it's time for your latest headlines.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning. It's coming up to 2 minutes past 10. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. Rishi Sunak has denied using a £21 billion support package as a distraction from lockdown parties at Number 10. The Chancellor says the cash boost wasn't unveiled to deflect attention and that the timing was purely down to greater certainty over energy prices in the autumn. It follows the publication of the Sue Gray report. Mr Sunak has suggested wealthy individuals who don't need the £400 energy bills grant can join him in donating the sum to charity. Angela Knight, former CEO of Energy UK, told GB News the support package from the government will help, but more still needs to be done.
It is a large amount of money, and I think that there was a real popular desire, though, for him to do something substantial, and he's done something substantial. But it is a for the time being step that he's taken. And I think on the back of that, they've really got to consider what is both the medium and long-term situation.
Pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine claim they've established full control over a strategic town in the east of the country. It comes as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky urges Western allies to again impose tougher sanctions on Russia. Ukraine's military says its troops are retreating and that there's been shelling of key routes in the area. In an overnight address, President Zelensky demanded the Kremlin ends what he calls its senseless war.
Ukraine will always be an independent state, and it can't be broken. The only question is what price our people will have to pay for their freedom, and Russia for this senseless war against us. And the second, the catastrophic unfolding events could still be stopped if the world treated the situation in Ukraine as its own. If the powers of this world did not play around with Russia, but really pressed to end the war.
The healthcare regulator has ordered an NHS trust to make significant and immediate improvements to its maternity services. The Care Quality Commission has issued a safety warning after a number of baby deaths at the Nottingham University hospitals. It follows unannounced inspections at 2 Nottingham sites in March that found maternity services inadequate. The NHS has appointed Donna Ockenden as chair of an independent review into the trust. She led the investigation into the Shrewsbury baby death scandal. America's biggest gun lobby, the National Rifle Association, will hold its annual convention in Texas today. Tens of thousands are expected to attend the event just days after 21 people were killed in a school shooting in the state. 19 students and 2 teachers died when a gunman opened fire at Robb Elementary School in the town of Uvalde. The manufacturers of the assault rifle used in the attack, Daniel Defense, said it wouldn't be attending the meeting as it wasn't the appropriate time to be promoting its products. 6 serving British soldiers and a veteran have been arrested on suspicion of drugs and money laundering offences. The Ministry of Defence confirmed the soldiers from the Irish Guards and former Coldstream Guardsmen were arrested this week. The Irish Guards have been the most operationally active unit in the British Army over recent years. Its 1st Battalion are set to take part in the annual Trooping the Colour ceremony on Thursday as part of the Jubilee celebrations. Cleaners and security guards will protest outside Downing Street later amid anger over revelations in the Sue Gray report about the way staff were treated in Number 10. United Voices of the World are a union which represents domestic and security workers in government buildings. It says they're protesting against the culture of disrespect. Boris Johnson says he's apologised to staff over the way they were spoken to as some at Number 10 drank and partied into the early hours. The cost of rapidly charging an electric car has risen sharply due to soaring energy prices, as according to the RAC. The motoring organisation says it's become a 5th more expensive in 8 months. The average price of using a public rapid charger has been increased by nearly 8 pence per kilowatt hour, from 36.7 to 44.6 pence. Rises in electricity and gas prices are behind the price hike, though it still remains cheaper than petrol and diesel. A remote Scottish island's looking for a head teacher of a school of just 4 pupils. Fowler, which is one of the most isolated places in Britain, has a population of just 28 and 1 classroom. And after the last head teacher retired, well, they're on the lookout for a new one. The job offers £61,000 a year, plus relocation expenses. Tempted? I think I am. Swedish pop group ABBA have returned to the stage in London for the first time in 40 years. But rather than appearing live, the band appeared as digital versions of themselves from their 1970s heyday, thanks to motion capture technology. Accompanied by a live band, the avatars performed some 20 songs during the 90-minute show called Voyage. The real ABBA, now in their 70s, were there too, posing for pictures together at the red carpet premiere. Great to see them together. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens now, though. It's back to Patrick with To The Point.
A very good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christys, on your TV, radio and online. And we've got a great show lined up for you to kickstart your day. So, here's what's on the menu. Has the Chancellor done enough? A £5 billion windfall tax on oil and gas giants will fund an emergency cost of living package. Rishi Sunak says that he will give every household £400 and the poorest households over £1,000 towards their energy bills. Does this solve the cost of living crisis for you? We'll bring you the story of Andrew Bash, as well, an England football fan who was subjected to a violent attack by Russian supporters at Euro 2016. He's spearheading a campaign to raise awareness of brain injuries, and, of course, we'll be asking whether violence and hooliganism is slowly creeping back into the beautiful game. And it's revealed as well that almost 40% of injuries involving e-scooters across England, Scotland and Wales last year happened in London, with 510 casualties reported in 2021. Are they a total menace? Yes. Or are people just irresponsible? I suppose there's that as well, isn't there? Anyway, we've got all of that coming up and much, much more across the programme. You can get in touch, don't be shy, gbviews@gbnews.uk. Right, OK, so Rishi Sunak has announced a £15 billion package of support for households struggling with the cost of living crisis, part funded, of course, by a £5 billion windfall tax on energy companies. Very controversial, that, though. This will include a £650 one-off payment for families on means-tested benefits and £400 for all energy bill payers that will not have to be repaid. So pensioners, often the most discriminated against in society, in my view, who receive winter fuel payments, will receive a one-off £300 payment as well. And joining me now is Christine Jardine, Lib Dem MP for West Edinburgh. Thank you very, very much. Great to have you back on the show. Do you think the Chancellor's done the right thing here?
Do I think, sorry?
The Chancellor's done the right thing.
I think the Chancellor has finally wakened up to what the country needs. I think he's been out of touch. We've been saying since October.
Okay, we've lost her, but look, don't worry, we'll get her back, I'm sure. But what do you think about all of this, people? OK, because I'm very on the fence about it. Initially, I was like, no, dead against any kind of windfall tax. I don't really necessarily like the idea that people who do well and profit, etc., should then have to kind of retrospectively have the government reach into their bank account and rip some money out of it. But at the same time, I don't want old people to freeze to death in their own homes, and also everyone's a bit skint at the moment. So maybe this just has to actually be the thing that happens. But let us know how far this goes for you. Is £400 enough? I did see an article today, actually. I don't know whether you all saw it in the press, but it was a bloke who says, look, I've got £12.60 left in my bank account, right? A one-off payment isn't going to cut it. Then I saw a couple of other people saying something similar, and I thought, well, to be honest with you, you do look like you eat quite a lot. And I'm pretty sure you might drink as well and maybe smoke a little bit. Is it the right thing to actually do? Should people basically raffle off their assets for the sake of being able to continue, essentially? Or actually, should they continue to be given money by the government? Let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Lots of you have been getting in touch with this, saying, look, hey, I actually think the majority of people in this country, this is Parker, thank you very much, would agree with what Rishi Sunak has actually done. I believe we might be about to have Christine Jardine back in the fray. Ah, here she is. Hey, Christine, sorry, that appearance was short and sweet, but has the Chancellor done the right thing?
Well, the Chancellor seems finally to have wakened up to what the country actually needed. Now, we've been calling for a windfall tax in the Liberal Democrats since October of last year. But, you know, the Chancellor was completely out of touch. As recently as last week, we were told that the government weren't going to do it. But finally now they have realised that this is what the country needs. But he does need to do more. he still hasn't cut VAT from 20 to 17.5%, which we are calling for, which would make a huge difference to families and pensioners up and down the country who are struggling with the cost of living crisis, which is unlike anything we've seen for 50 years.
Indeed. I've just had an email in from Robert, actually, and Robert says, I think what the Chancellor has done is beyond expectations, and I thank him for the help that I will receive. I think a lot of people, though, just maybe have a bit of an issue, don't they, Christine, with this idea of a windfall tax and what that might mean for businesses, because if people know that, if they do remarkably well one year, then retrospectively the government might reach into their bank accounts and take some money off them. They might not come here in the first place.
No, I think it has to be absolutely clear that this is a one-off, that it's because we are in exceptional circumstances. We have always said that as Liberal Democrats, that it would be a one-off. And, you know, actually the Conservatives have done it before, but I can't remember the exact dates, but I think we have to be clear that this is short-term. That the aim is not to wait and see how businesses do and then tax them retrospectively. It's to respond to a crisis. A crisis, as I say, that we haven't seen the likes of in this country for half a century. And, you know, people do need help and support at the moment. Does it go far enough is a different question. And for me, the answer is no. We do need more. And we needed this help sooner. The crunch is going to come in the autumn. When yet on top of the cost of living crisis, we go into the winter, and then pensioners particularly are going to suffer. And one of the other things which I'm concerned about is the fact that we need to ensure that the triple lock, if it's reinstated, if we get it back, that we keep it there and that we bring pensions constantly into line with inflation, and that we don't allow pensions to fall further behind.
Yeah, all right. Christopher's been on as well. I'd like to put this to you. He says, why should multimillionaires get the £400? And maybe there's a point in there somewhere.
They shouldn't. They shouldn't. I mean, I agree. He should. Multimillionaires shouldn't get it. And I think actually the Chancellor has said that he'll be giving it back. And I think those of us who can afford to give it back should give it back, because this is not aimed at all of us. It is aimed at helping those families who are struggling at the moment. And there are tens of thousands of people in this country who are, for the first time in their lives, finding it difficult to make ends meet. Proud families. People who, I was at a food bank in my constituency last week, and the people who run it were telling me that many of the people who have donated in the past were actually now coming to the food bank for help. And they were finding it very difficult because these are people who've never needed support before. And that is what we have to be aware of in this, that this is a crisis which is reaching into parts of, communities that haven't known this kind of pressure before.
Yeah, OK, but I mean, I suppose the flip side of this is, what did people like you maybe expect, Christine, when we wanted to shut down the economy, we had these lockdowns, another lockdown, for goodness sake, as well, on top of that. And now you're asking for even more money in taxation. I mean, it just seemed like maybe it's going a bit far. Is it cake and eat it territory?
I'm not the one who's put up the taxes. The Chancellor has hiked national insurance, put up taxes and hit families hard. What have been seeking to do, and what we called for the Chancellor to do, and what he has now recognised, is that there are businesses which have made vast extra profits on top of what they might normally have expected. Not just energy companies and not just oil and gas companies, but there are huge, online tech giants who made a fortune through the pandemic when we were all locked down. Now, I would like to see a windfall tax extended to them to help our businesses, our high street businesses who have suffered, who haven't had the benefit of having a massive online presence when they were forced to close because of the protective measures that were put in place during COVID. And I think we do need to see more.
Christine, OK, thank you for your views there. Christine Jardine, Lib Dem MP for West Edinburgh. Do you agree with Christine? Do you disagree? And then there's a mixed bag always in our inbox. GBViews at gbnews.uk. But still to come, we're going to bring you the horrific story of an England fan who was subjected to a violent attack by Russian supporters at Euro 2016. He's now spearheading a campaign to raise awareness of brain injuries. There's football hooliganism rears its ugly head yet again. But first, let's have a look at your weather.
Good morning, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather update. Bit of a chilly one out there this morning, but for most of us it's going to be a fine Friday with dry, bright weather, plenty of sunshine and lighter winds compared to yesterday. High pressure is slowly moving in and breaking up this weather front, bringing, as I say, for most of us a fine day. But notice the isobars fairly close together there across Scotland, so still quite windy here with a fair few showers coming in, mostly north of the central belt. But showers on the heavy side in places this morning before easing off this afternoon. From the central belt southwards, the vast majority staying dry. Certainly plenty of sunshine across the Midlands, Wales, southern and eastern England, and lighter winds compared to yesterday. And although it's a bit fresh out there right now, temperatures ticking up by this afternoon, feeling pretty pleasant, 21, maybe 22 Celsius. Cooler further north and certainly still pretty fresh for the time of year in northern Scotland with a few showers and a stiff wind. The showers will continue to fade through this evening. Most of us are going to be dry. Temperatures will drop quite sharply this evening though, so bear that in mind if you have outdoor plans. It's going to be another chilly one tonight and a pretty cold start to Saturday for the time of year, well down into single figures. Certainly in rural areas we could be as low as 2 or 3 degrees. So yes, chilly for Saturday morning, but again, it's going to be a blue sky morning, lots of sunshine around. Again, the main exception will be northeast Scotland, where it'll still be breezy with maybe a few showers. Cloud is expected to develop through the day tomorrow, particularly over eastern England. There's a small chance of a shower or two here, but for most it's going to stay dry. Again, temperature's not spectacular, but feeling okay in the sunshine. A cooler feel on some of these North Sea coasts as that northerly breeze continues. And that's going to be very evident on Sunday, bringing much more cloud across the country. Quite a grey day and a chilly day as well. But still on Sunday, many of us will be dry.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Very good morning, everybody. It's 10:21. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, right here on GB News, and we're live on your TV, online and radio this morning. Now, an England fan who was subjected to a violent attack by Russian thugs at Euro 2016 is spearheading a campaign to raise awareness of brain injuries. So Andrew Bash was beaten around the head with iron bars and is now unable to work, drive, or frankly lead a normal life. He says the effects of brain injuries are often unnoticed and misunderstood. Well, our South West of England reporter, Jeff Moody, went to meet him.
Andrew Bache can't remember going to France for the football. He can't remember the attack that nearly killed him. But he can remember doctors telling him he'd suffered a life-changing injury to his brain.
I've also been told that I've got to give myself more credit. Because I think it's always been the same with me. I don't give myself enough credit for things, and like pat on the back time. I mean, I'm the one who gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and feeds the dog and makes sure the dog's out, and I'm the one who takes the dog for a walk. I look after my flat myself, and I just take it. I take that as normal.
Andrew says his positive attitude is thanks to Headway, an organisation that supports people with brain injuries and helps them adjust to their new life.
And so it enables you to realise that you're not as stupid as you thought you were. That's what it does to me.
It does it to thousands of others too. Around 350,000 people a year are admitted to hospital with brain injuries. That's 1 in every 90 seconds. The organisation offers practical help as well as drop-in sessions where people can feel supported, where they're understood. And that's the message that organisations like this are very keen to get across. Brain injuries are classified as a physical disability, but for many people, you can't see it. You don't know that it's there. That's why they call it the hidden disability.
An example could be that someone that has a brain injury is at a checkout at a supermarket and is maybe struggling with paying, and then people behind maybe will make some comments because they don't fully understand what's wrong. They find that upsetting. So what we're looking at doing is just making people more aware that don't judge or jump to conclusions, because there may be a genuine reason why people are behaving like that.
Compassion is key, says Andrew, and Headway supplies that in spades, rebuilding self-esteem when life has fallen apart. Jeff Moody, GB News.
Yeah, well, sports broadcaster and journalist Aidan McGee is with me now. Aidan, thank you very much for making your way into the studio. Now, it's a shocking story, what we just listened to there.
Yeah.
And not one that's necessarily very common these days, but certainly back in the day, there was a massive problem with football violence.
Hugely, yeah. I mean, and it's far divorced from what we see today. We're talking back in the... probably starting at the end of the 60s, going into the mid-70s. By the 80s, it was organised crime. In the 70s, much in common with every other area of public life or any other area of social life, if you like. This was the 70s. It was mob rule stuff. It was just disorganised chaos, quite frankly.
Right.
Back in... when we got to the 80s, it became much more serious. It became ostensibly organised crime. So you had firms attaching themselves to football clubs, Millwall, West Ham, Chelsea, Cardiff, Leeds, Birmingham City, Stoke, all these clubs, OK, and more. Now, the word firm is very, very important because a lot of these people came from commercial backgrounds. So that in London, for example, if you're a West Ham fan or Millwall fan or Chelsea fan, the chances are you were holding down a very good job, you're working 9 to 5, you had a family, you had a mortgage and a Ford Sierra, all the rest of it. And that's why the police took so long to get to grips with the perpetrators of these crimes. They just assumed it was the local kids from the nearest estate. Yes, they were foot soldiers involved, but the perpetrators, the organisers, were extremely smart. They were using mobile phone technology back in the 80s when nobody else had them. Mobile phones were about that big at the time. They were using the tube network to use ambushes. They were using military tactics, but it took social scientists to get involved and actually find out who was behind all this.
Yeah.
So it's much different to what we're seeing today. I'm not saying none of it today is organised. I mean, the Andrew story there illustrated or referenced Euro 2016. That was organised by Russia. They've been training for that ostensibly. Their group, their firms, who, again, had copied the English disease, as it was called back in the 80s. They had attached themselves to individual clubs like Spartak Moscow, Shakhtar Donetsk, Zenit St. Petersburg, all the rest of it, and they had copied what the English do and literally turned the tables. By now, of course, 20, 30 years later, yes, there is a little bit of problem, a few problems that follow England around. We saw that last summer, but that was more sort of chaos. It wasn't organised stuff that we were seeing back in the 80s. Organised gangs going around causing mayhem, but it was strategised.
Yeah, and why did they do it? Why did these people who were essentially holding down quite a good job, as you've just said there, with a bit of money, there was quite a lot of fashion around it as well.
Oh, hugely.
Was it just because they thought it was just a bit of a rush to knock a few heads together at the weekend?
It was cultural. So it was... I remember it when I was at school, the lads maybe 3 or 4 years ahead of me They were, where I grew up in Kent, it was more Millwall was the thing, West Ham was the thing, right? A bit of Chelsea. Some other, there were like a second division of football firms as well, QPR involved, Oxford United, Luton, that kind of thing. And it was cultural. And listen, it wasn't hand-to-hand combat. It was more to going to matches and being a bit naughty, throwing a stone. If you look at most football violence on footage on YouTube going back in the day, it's just people standing around going like this.
Yeah,
it's that kind of stuff. It's what they used to call scarfers. People who weren't really there for trouble, they just wanted to be near it and feel the adrenaline rush.
Feel the rush.
Because that's what it's about. And so it was a cultural thing. Most of the people grew out of it. I mean, I still go to QPR now and I see a guy who's well known to have been involved in hooliganism back in as far back as the 70s. He's not been able to go into QPR for about the last 30-odd years because he's been banned, but he still stands outside looking to kind of relive or smell that atmosphere. This guy was known, he travelled with England, he travelled around with all the QPR, and if you were a second division hooligan like QPR, but you wanted real aggro, maybe you went along with Chelsea, because it's slightly bigger and they had bigger games going on. So it was cultural, everyone knew each other, it was cool to get involved in it, but it wasn't until the police and the social scientists got together and worked out who the perpetrators were until they identified them.
And we're obviously not back there now, and indeed it does appear that this kind of behaviour is mostly coming from people from other countries as well, like the Russians that we've just seen there. But look, I understand that you obviously speak with quite a bit of authority on this issue. You've got a bit of a familial link, essentially.
Yeah, a member of my family, extended family, was caught with possession of CS gas back in the late 80s. Now, he has completely turned his life around. He's unrecognisable from the person he was then. He actually wasn't that bad outside of this incident, but he was swept up in it. He was literally swept up in it. And he had Sergio Cecchini and a Les and Pringle sweaters and all the rest of it. That was part of the culture. They were called the football casuals. They travelled round on a football special, which was a designated train, which the British Rail, the old British Rail, were actually so concerned that these trains would get wrecked that they would provide old rolling stock for fans to travel on. So, I don't know, Crystal Palace are playing up at Bolton on a Saturday, they'd have one carriage, then West Ham would have another carriage. They were sealed off from each other. And then the nightmare for, even today, for the fixture computer is that you have to work out where your matches are on a Saturday, and you have to work out, hang on a minute, what's the chances, if West Ham are playing up at Man United, what's the chances they're going to run into Chelsea at Manchester Piccadilly at 5:45?
And would that still kick off?
Listen, I don't think not as often as it would do, but listen, with cocaine involved and with booze involved, all bets are off. Anything can happen. I mean, the cocaine thing wasn't really there back in the 80s and 90s so much. I mean, now it's latterly a development that's kind of emerged within the football scene. And I've been in corporate areas, in football grounds. I've seen lengthy queues for the toilets. We all know what's going on. There need to be sniffer dogs at the ground to stop it happening. And there needs to be, not just on the terraces or in the seating areas, but also in the corporate areas. That's the way it's going on. Now, I'm not saying those people in the corporate areas are necessarily engaging in trouble, but it's part of a wider culture.
Part of a culture, isn't
exactly.
it? Exactly. And just in terms of football, it's all about league tables at the end of the day. Where are we now in terms of the global hooliganism league table, do you think?
I would say England is still... There are still problems here, and there is still a risk when England go abroad. We are, after all, playing a Nations League game next month behind closed doors at Molineux, which is very embarrassing on the FA. They're trying to go for national tournaments. They're not going to get them too often if that's happening. But the odds are stacked against us anyway because, technically our bids are perfect, but we haven't had a major international tournament with the exception of last summer, which was a...
Is that because we don't buy it?
I wouldn't say we don't buy it. I think we buy it too much. We look too desperate. We look too desperate to hold it. It's a great thing for the whole country because it engages the whole city. It's not like the Olympics, which is just about East London. In 2012, a load of middle-class people going to watch sports they never heard of. This was
exactly. Javelin.
This is real football, a real world-class event, and it involves Cardiff. Not Cardiff, obviously, because it's if it was a British bid, it would. But Plymouth were in the running for the World Cup. Places like Leicester, Southampton, Ipswich, Norwich, they get a nibble on the pie, as well as the likes of Wembley and Old Trafford and Anfield, etc. So that's different. So they're looking too desperate a lot of the times. And FIFA and UEFA, whoever's awarding the tournament, have just inexplicably, we know what happened in Qatar in 2010. But that's a bid that England should have got. Technically, we have the best stadiums in the world for one country. It's easy to get around. We should have had a World Cup. We've not had a World Cup since 1966. It's astonishing.
Absolutely. But look, Aidan, thank you very, very much. Great to have you on the show, and hopefully I'll get you on one of my Friday night ones again very soon.
Love that.
As well, mate. Aidan McGee there, speaking about football hooliganism, violence in football as well. What do you make of that? Goodness gracious me. GBViews at gbnews.uk. A lot of people have been getting in touch as well about the cost of living crisis. We've got loads coming your way in this show as well, because we've got e-scooters coming up as well. Are they an out-and-out menace? I've had a couple of terrible experiences with an e-scooter. One ended up in an A&E in Bournemouth, actually, which I think is bad enough. But there we go. Although, to be fair, at A&E in Bournemouth, if you're there now, they had GBNews on when I was in there, getting my foot seen to. So, hello, everyone at A&E in Bournemouth, if you are still watching. Anyway, after the break, e-scooters are a nightmare. We're going to be talking all about that. We'll be diving into the e-scooter debate. But before that, here's a look at your morning's headlines.
It's 10:32. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. Rishi Sunak has denied using a £21 billion support package as a distraction from lockdown parties at Number 10. The Chancellor says the timing was purely down to greater certainty over energy prices in the autumn. It follows the publication of the Sue Gray report on Wednesday. Mr Sunak's also suggested that those wealthy enough not to need the £400 energy bills grant join him in donating the money to charity. Pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine claim they've established full control over a strategic town in the east of the country. It comes as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky urges Western allies to again impose tougher sanctions on Russia. Ukraine's military says its troops are retreating and that there's been a shelling of key routes in the area. America's biggest gun lobby, the National Rifle Association, will hold its annual convention in Texas today. Tens of thousands are expected to attend the event, just days after 21 people were killed in a school shooting in the state. 19 students and 2 teachers died when a gunman opened fire at Robb Elementary School in the town of Uvalde. The manufacturers of the assault rifle used in the attack, Daniel Defense, said it wouldn't be attending the meeting as it wasn't the appropriate time to be promoting its products. And a remote Scottish island is looking for a head teacher of its school for just 4 pupils. Fowler, which is one of the most isolated places in Britain, has a population of just 28 and 1 classroom. And after the last head teacher retired, they're on the lookout for a new one. The job offers £61,000 a year plus relocation expenses. Tempted? TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the finance report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.249 to the dollar. It's 1.182 to the euro. And the price of gold currently stands at £1,473.11 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the finance report on GB News, investments that matter.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you. And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It's 10:37. This is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, right here on GB News. We're live on your TV, online and radio this morning. Now, it's been revealed that almost 40% of injuries involving e-scooters across England, Scotland and Wales last year happened in London. The Met Police recorded 510 casualties in the capital during 2021. That's more than double the number in 2020. 9 deaths were reported across England, Scotland and Wales last year. Now, use of privately owned e-scooters on public roads is illegal, although certain devices can be used in parts of London through a rental trial scheme. Well, let's talk to Neil Gregg, Director of Policy and Research at I Am Road Smart, a UK road safety charity. Thank you very much. Right, look, I've got to be honest with you. I've only tried to be on an e-scooter once and I ended up in A&E, and so I'm pretty dead against them, really.
I think you're not alone in that respect, I'm afraid, Patrick. They are coming out as being more and more dangerous. We've only really had good statistics for the last 2 years. And as you say, it's gone from 9 deaths last year up from 1 death the year before, a huge increase. And there's over 1,500 people being injured by these things as well. And of course, they're not that widely used, mainly in London, as you've said. And the issue here is that somehow we have allowed a totally unregulated form of transport to be available to people out on our roads, on our pavements, all across the UK, really, in fact. And it is just totally unregulated. No training, no personal protective gear, no standards for the machines themselves. And these are actually, they're not the sort of toy scooters that we think of giving to our children. These are substantial pieces of kit, very heavy, very fast, and often with a very heavy person on them as well.
Yeah, indeed. That certainly was when I was riding one, that's for sure. But it's also not just them, is it? You get these almost monocycle-y type ones as well, and you just think, OK, they might be a good gimmick when you're down the park, but actually you're razzing it through a cycle lane. But, no, do you think it's a problem that's only going to get worse? Because I can understand that people now are being kind of forced into this a bit by the likes of Sadiq Khan in London. It should be called Sadiq Can't, really, because you can't do anything when he's there. You can't drive, you can't own a diesel car, so you get yourself an e-scooters to get to work. So are we being funneled in this direction?
Well, I think in theory, the idea of a small, light, mobile device that you could perhaps put in a bag or the boot of your car or sling over your shoulder, take the bus, take the train, get to close to your destination, and then e-scoot to your final destination. In theory, it's great. But the trouble is, in reality, that's not what's happening. We've got this totally unregulated market. The e-scooters themselves are catching fire, are often dangerous. There's no control on things like speed or lighting or things like that. But also, what we're finding is that the people who are using e-scooters are actually using them instead of using the tube, instead of using the bus. They're actually coming out of public transport rather than coming out of cars. So really, they're not really proving to be the sort of active travel solution that I think people like Sadiq Khan had hoped for, because the people using them are actually just coming out of public transport. So it's public transport's loss rather than fewer cars being used by e-scooter users.
Well, I've got to be honest with you, I do another show on Friday nights, Friday Night Feast, 7 till 9 p.m, and a big centrepiece of that is a challenge Christys. Now, I can't help but wonder whether or not trying to ride a flaming e-scooter through London could be quite a good one to do there, actually. But who's worse, cyclists or drivers of e-scooters?
Well, that's a difficult one. I think cyclists, larger machine, a bit more training perhaps in the background. People understand the use of a cycle and they maybe expect to see a cycle. These e-scooters, small, silent, deadly, being used amongst pedestrians. The second biggest group of people who are injured by e-scooters are pedestrians. And if you look at the age chart that came out as well, it was mainly older pedestrians who are being hit by these e-scooters as well. So they're illegal and they're dangerous on pavements. They're illegal and they're dangerous on roads. The only place that I Am Road Smart would like to see them being allowed to be used is actually in private land or on cycle tracks. If we had more cycle tracks, more cycle lanes, that would keep the cyclists and the e-scooters separate and safe from the traffic and from the pedestrians.
Yeah, I mean, cyclists certainly aren't silent, but they can be deadly. You only have to get within half a mile of one and they give you, whoa, 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 you're getting too close to me, you're getting too close to me. You know, they are a bit of a menace in my opinion there. But the e-scooter side of it, I think you raise a cracking point, OK, because I've got a grandmother, I think is the salt of the earth, but she's, you know, getting a little bit older now, of course. And, you know, some of these people that I've just about dodged out the way of, when an e-scooter's razzing it past me on the pavement, she wouldn't have been able to get out of the way of that. She just wouldn't have done. And I'd be concerned that it could kill her. And I do think we're going to start seeing e-scooters killing old people on a more regular basis.
As I say, we're only just starting to learn about these issues. I mean, I've seen one fairly well-documented case of an older person who tripped over an abandoned e-scooter. Now, that doesn't go down as an e-scooter-related death. It goes down as a trip-related death. So all these sort of unreported problems are going on. If you look at the hire schemes, there's hire schemes, as you mentioned, in London, there's hire schemes in many cities across the UK. The hire schemes, you have to be a certain age, you have to have a provisional licence, the scooters are regulated, they're insured. There's been very few problems with the hire schemes, so that shows that regulation could work. But the problem is, the hire schemes are still running after about 3 years. We're not going to see the end of the hire schemes until at least November of this year. And in the meantime, every single day, every single summer, every single Christmas, people are buying more and more of these privately owned e-scooters, which, as I say, are totally unregulated. We need to get this mess sorted out now rather than waiting for the end of the hire schemes, which we know already are actually a lot more successful than the totally unregulated market.
It took for me to essentially commit an absolute atrocity on an e-scooter in Bournemouth was just to tap onto it on my card. I don't really think that I had to do anything other than that, pretty much. And before I knew it, I was in the middle of a roundabout. But there we go. Enough about that particular evening. Steve's been on. I walk my dog a lot. I've lost count of the number of times these little has shot past me and my dog on the pavement on an e-scooter. This is what people are saying as well. It's not just the elderly, it's animals. It could be absolutely anybody. Surely it needs some form of regulation. But Neil, thank you very much. You've been great. We'll have to have you back on. Neil Gregg there, Director of Policy and Research at I Am Road Smart, a UK road safety charity. Tell you what, e-scooters have got you all pretty wound up this morning. We go to some views on this, gbviews at gbnews.uk. We can't regulate them. We need to get them off our streets, and that's from Nick. And there's a lot of this going about. Let me tell you what, there is really a lot of this going about. Just back from Tenerife, the e-scooters are legal, but you need insurance and a riding permit, which you can only get if you do some work for it, and that's from Dan. So basically, I think saying it's more difficult to just hop on an e-scooter in Tenerife, apparently. Who knew? Anyway, gbviews at gbnews.uk. But we're moving on from that now. The Queen has had a close relationship with the British Armed Forces over the course of her 70-year reign. Today, a new exhibition opens which documents a series of rare photos of Her Majesty at the Imperial War Museum in London. That's ahead, of course, of the Platinum Jubilee. Our royal reporter Cameron Walker got a sneaky peek.
This is the Gaumont British News, presenting the truth to the free peoples of the world.
By early 1945, the Second World War was nearly over, and Britain was close to victory. An 18-year-old Princess Elizabeth became the first female member of the royal family to enlist in the armed forces full-time. In the year of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, pictures of Her Majesty form part of a new exhibition at the Imperial War Museum. The curator, Kate Clements, thinks visitors will get a unique insight.
We haven't done anything like this before, and so it's really exciting for us to be able to draw together a range of photographs, also film elsewhere, and we've got some objects on display too that visitors can interact with and learn more about the links between royalty and wartime.
Handling an army ambulance isn't always as simple as it looks, but the Princess has won her commanding officer's praise as an excellent and considerate driver.
In Britain, women took on key roles so men could fight on the front line. Princess Elizabeth joined the Auxiliary Territorial Service and qualified as a driver and mechanic. It gave the future Queen the chance to interact with ordinary young women of her age, a rare chance for her to live a relatively normal life. But it also perhaps cemented her call of duty, as Kate points out.
The wartime years were pretty important to her. She learnt a lot about the importance of duty. She saw her parents were very present. They didn't hide away. They were visible for the population in this time of national crisis. And I think she learnt from that. And she also felt a sense of wanting to also do her part.
Throughout her 70-year reign, the Queen has lived through times of conflict. Her Majesty is head of the armed forces. They swear allegiance to her. Perhaps the photographs featured in the Crown and Conflict exhibition show how her role has been shaped by her wartime experiences. But wartime leads to peacetime, and Her Majesty's Armed Forces can show off their ceremonial duties too. Next week, the Royal Air Force, Royal Navy and British Army will take part in the Queen's birthday parade and flypast. A royal salute to Queen Elizabeth's lifetime of service. Cameron Walker, GB News, London.
Oh, how good are those old pictures? Thank you for that, Cameron. That's nice. But just slightly moving away from that now. As Brits, we love a celebration, don't we? And a royal occasion is where we do it best. In fact, 58% of us have something planned to celebrate the Queen's 70 years on the throne next week, and 41% say they still get excited about royal events. Good, we should be. Joining me now is Michael Cole, former royal correspondent. Welcome to that. Thank you very, very much. What have you got planned for the big days?
Well, I shall be working for you on Thursday morning. I'm looking forward to it.
Good stuff.
That's going to be a good start. And it'd be very nice to be back in Buckingham Palace with a laminated badge and a lanyard around my neck, talking to people like Eamon Holmes. You've probably heard of him, and his friends, talking about, because at this time next week, we're going to be deeply in the throes of what is going to be a wonderful Jubilee weekend. And I think everybody's going to enjoy it. And it's going to be far and wide a celebration, and quite rightly so, after 70 years. I mean, an unprecedented reign. And it was great to see those pictures of the Queen in the wartime. I understand that she was very good at doing hill starts outside Windsor Castle and can still make a fairly good job of changing sparking plugs, not on your e-scooter perhaps, but elsewhere in the royal stables and garages.
Absolutely, and I think this country needs it. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say what's our plans, or what my plan is anyway for the Jubilee. I'm being sent to a particular location in the country. What could go wrong, of course, what could go wrong? But yes, I mean, I think it's time for the country to come together. Garden parties, bit of bunting, Victoria sponges, all of these things. Quintessentially British stuff, right?
Absolutely. And of course, most of the people alive today, including you, have only ever known the Queen on the throne. This Queen, this monarch, this head of state, this head of the armed forces. There are few people as old as me who can actually remember when King George VI was the monarch, and I can remember very clearly the day he died. I was 8 years old at the time. And I remember after the coronation, the Saturday after the coronation, my mother took my sister and myself to the Trooping of the Colour the following Saturday. Of course, we didn't see a thing. We bought a cardboard and mirrors periscope for 2 shillings to try and see something. Saw very, very little, but we were part of the scene. And I think that's what people want on an occasion like this, to get involved, to have something to remember. And there is a lot to remember after an unprecedented reign of 70 years, and a Queen who has been almost everywhere in this country and certainly throughout the world, and has met everybody of any note in the last half of the 20th century and the first 20 years of this.
What do you make of Harry and Meghan as well? They're not going to be on the balcony, but they've decided that they're still going to come and do us all a favour with their presence.
Well, I imagine there's a big semi-military operation going on somewhere in California in a billionaire's hilltop fortress, making plans to come here. They're going to be bringing their 2 children, of course, Archie and their daughter Lilibet, who, of course, is named after the name that the Queen, when she could not articulate the word Elizabeth, she called herself Lilibet when she was a little girl, and they've chosen that name. And this will be the first opportunity they'll have had to have introduced their daughter to Her Majesty the Queen, and I suspect they'll take the opportunity while they're here to have the child christened, baptised at St George's Church, Windsor. And they'll have to be rather circumspect about the way they present themselves while they're here. The British don't go in for booing. They were far too polite for that. But the way that things have worked out since they exiled themselves to California haven't been entirely well received in this country. I think Prince Harry will come to regret that interview he did with Oprah Winfrey, in the same way that his dear mother, Princess Diana, came to regret in time her BBC interview with Martin Bashir. And of course, this is an opportunity, and I hope he takes it, to try and mend fences with his brother, Prince William, in particular, who quite clearly resented very much the inference that racism was infecting the royal family. As he said, this is very much not a racist family. That obviously hurt him because the spotlight was on him. But there are opportunities, and Princess Diana, the shade of Princess Diana, will be willing them to mend their fences, because she always believed that her two sons, whatever happened, would be there for each other. And this is a rare opportunity when Prince Harry can actually reach out to his brother and try and mend those fences, because it's important to do it.
It is important to do, but Michael, thank you very, very much, and I look forward to working with you on Jubilee Day as well, by the sounds of things. Michael Cole there, former royal correspondent. Not former, he's current now. We've rehired him. He's made a comeback. Anyway, there we go. But let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you may well have missed. I love this bit of the show. A Japanese man has decided that he doesn't want to live as a human being anymore. Instead, he's decided that he'd rather be a dog. The man, who goes by the name of Toka-san, oh, good grief, has spent more than £12,000 on a costume, which means that he can now live as a border collie. A bizarre video of Toka-san dressed in the dog costume emerged on YouTube and shows him standing on all fours before waving his paw at the camera. I mean, it's obviously absolutely mental, this, isn't it, really? I think it's a bit of a strange one. I mean, yeah, I mean, he's picked quite a good-looking dog, to be fair, the border collie. They're not terrible, are they? Looks a bit like Lassie, but, you know, perhaps with more issues, I think. Anyway, and the animal stories just keep on coming as well, because this time the owners of a £120,000 racehorse were left gobsmacked when they bought the mare for breeding, only to find out that she was really a he. You can usually tell with a horse, I mean, quite famously with horses. But anyway, there we go. The horse, called Kept True, ironically, was anything but after the shock examination. It had been a successful racehorse, winning 5 races against other mares and bagging £275,000 in prize money. But the vet's test revealed that Kept True doesn't have any ovaries, despite having a female appearance. There you go. Further tests revealed that she was a rare genetic condition that gives her the appearance of a female horse, and the fact is that she actually has XY chromosomes. So it's kind of a, yeah, a hermaphrodite horse, is it, in a way? Anyway, the new owners asked for the former owners to cancel the sale, but they've refused, and now, gosh, it's gone to court, hasn't it? Well, there we go. OK, well, look, keep all of your thoughts coming in. Of course, GBviews at gbnews.uk. You can keep those rolling in. They've been in there so far. This is from Graham. He says that he's against the windfall tax. So people have been getting in touch all about the windfall tax. It won't stop coming about the windfall tax, will it? As Rishi Sunak essentially announced that yesterday. We also had a big conversation about football hooliganism and basically drugs in sport, violence in sports as well. David says, what's the point of having drug dogs at football matches? They'd be hard-pressed to issue a caution at the most. The state of the police and the law now, basically saying that it would not work, and I'm kind of inclined to believe you there as well. And we've had the Japanese dog saying, yes, absolutely, that's his not a particularly good thing to do. Actually, can't read that email out, Parker, can I? You know why. OK, all right. Keep all your thoughts coming in to us on email, gbviews at gbnews.uk. We'll be back with more of today's top stories. Plenty of your views after this very, very short break.
Hello, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Showers will remain across northern parts of the UK, especially the far north of Scotland, where it will also be breezy, but otherwise plenty of warm sunshine as high pressure builds in from the southwest, and that's going to settle things down heading into the start of the weekend at least, with any showers mostly confined to the far north of the UK during the rest of the day on Friday. Also a fair amount of cloud for North Wales, Northern England, Northern Ireland and much of Scotland, and it will be breezy here, particularly around higher parts of Scotland and to the east of higher ground. Those showers mostly affecting areas to the north of the Central Belt, where it will feel cool, but towards the south, 19 to 22 Celsius for the southern half of the UK, mid-teens for the northern half. Into the evening, and showers in the far north tend to fade away, and it's a dry night with clear spells for most, and with the wind easing as well, temperatures will fall away. We're looking at widely mid to high single figures, and in some sheltered rural parts, just about anywhere, could see low single figures, perhaps even a touch of air frost across sheltered parts of Scotland. So a chilly start to the weekend, but soon enough the sun will get to work and it will warm up, and plenty of sunny spells will be found across the country. I think a bit more cloud filtering into eastern and northern parts of the country during the afternoon, and the odd shower is possible for higher parts of northern England and southern Scotland, but for the vast majority it's dry. Warm sunny spells, 21 or 22 Celsius in the south, 17 for Glasgow, 16 for Belfast. Into Saturday evening, 1 or 2 showers there for southern parts of Scotland, northern England, but for the vast majority, again, it's dry with clear spells. But into Sunday, the chance of a few more showers breaking out, particularly in the east, more widely showers on Monday and Tuesday.
Join us for a special GB News event.
The celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
From pageantry here at the Palace
to the parties in your street.
We'll bring you 4 days of
unforgettable moments
between the 2nd and the 5th of June.
Join us live up and down the country as we share your memories
of Her Majesty's extraordinary reign.
Send us your stories, photographs and videos
at Jubilee at gbnews.uk.
Come and celebrate with us
on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
we embrace all voices.
with honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you. And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christys, on your TV, radio and online, with you all the way through until midday. Action-packed show. There's loads of huge stories and, of course, loads of your views and expert guests. So make sure that you get in touch with your views, as usual, gbviews at gbnews.uk. And we'll be getting to those throughout the show. But first, it's time for your latest headlines.
Good morning, it's just gone 11 o'clock. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. Rishi Sunak has denied using a £21 billion support package as a distraction from lockdown parties at Number 10. The Chancellor says the timing was purely down to greater certainty over energy prices in the autumn. It follows the publication of the Sue Gray report on Wednesday. Mr Sunak's also suggested those wealthy enough join him in donating the universal £400 energy bill discount to charity. The former CEO of Energy UK, Angela Knight, told GB News the government's support package will help, but more still needs to be done.
It is a large amount of money, and I think that there was a real
popular desire, though, for him to do something substantial, and he's done something substantial. But it is a for the time being step that he's taken. And I think on the back of that, they've really got to consider what is both the medium and long-term situation.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned Russia is weaponizing the global food crisis. He's urging Western allies to impose tougher sanctions on Russia and said the world must prevent large-scale famine. It comes as Ukraine's military says troops are retreating and that there's been shelling of key routes in the eastern part of the country. In an overnight address, President Zelensky demanded that the Kremlin ends what he calls a senseless war.
Ukraine will always be an independent state, and it can't be broken. The only question is what price our people will have to pay for their freedom, and Russia for this senseless war against us. And the second, the catastrophic unfolding events could still be stopped if the world treated the situation in Ukraine as its own. If the powers of this world did not play around with Russia, but really pressed to end the war.
Back here, the healthcare regulator has ordered an NHS trust to make significant and immediate improvements to its maternity services. The Care Quality Commission has issued a safety warning after a number of baby deaths at the Nottingham University hospitals. It follows unannounced inspections at 2 Nottingham sites in March that found maternity services inadequate. The NHS has appointed Donna Ockenden as chair of an independent review into the trust. She led the investigation into the Shrewsbury baby death scandal. America's biggest gun lobby, the National Rifle Association, will hold its annual convention in Texas today. Tens of thousands are expected to attend the event just days after 21 people were killed in a school shooting in the state. 19 students and 2 teachers died when a gunman opened fire at Robb Elementary School in the town of Uvalde. The manufacturers of the assault rifle used in the attack, Daniel Defense, said it wouldn't be attending the meeting as it wasn't the appropriate time to be promoting its products. 6 serving British soldiers and a veteran have been arrested on suspicion of drugs and money laundering offences. The Ministry of Defence confirmed the soldiers from the Irish Guards and former Coldstream Guardsmen were arrested this week. The Irish Guards have been the most operationally active unit in the British Army over recent years. Its 1st Battalion are set to take part in the annual Trooping the Colour ceremony on Thursday as part of the Jubilee celebrations. Cleaners and security guards will protest outside Downing Street later amid anger over revelations in the Sue Gray report about the way staff were treated in Number 10. United Voices of the World are a union which represents domestic and security workers in government buildings. It says they're protesting against the culture of disrespect. Boris Johnson says he's apologised to staff over the way they were spoken to, as some at Number 10 drank and partied into the early hours. The cost of rapidly charging an electric car has risen sharply due to soaring energy prices. That's according to the RAC. The motoring organisation says it's become 1/5 more expensive in 8 months. The average price of using a public rapid charger has increased by nearly 8 pence per kilowatt hour, from 36.7 to 44.6 pence. Rises in electricity and gas prices are behind the price hike, though it still remains cheaper than petrol and diesel. Swedish pop group ABBA have returned to the stage in London for the first time in 40 years. A warning, the following contains flashing images.
The love you gave me, nothing else can save me.
And rather than performing live, the band appeared as digital versions of themselves from their 1970s heyday, thanks to motion capture technology. Accompanied by a live band, the avatars performed some 20 songs during the 90-minute show called Voyage. The real ABBA, now in their 70s, they were there too, posing for pictures together on the red carpet. And great to see them back together. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now, though, let's return to Patrick with To The Point.
Good morning, everybody. This is To The Point on GB News with me, Patrick Christys, on your TV, radio and online. And we've got a great show lined up for you for this final hour. So here's what's on the menu. Has the Chancellor done enough? A £5 billion windfall tax on oil and gas giants will fund an emergency cost of living package. Rishi Sunak says he'll give every household 400 big ones and the poorest households over £1,000 towards their energy bills. But does this really solve the cost of living crisis for you? Hey, some people are saying it's gone too far. We don't need this. But what do you think? The war in Ukraine continues to rage on, with Ukrainian officials admitting that Russia has the upper hand in their Donbass regions. President Zelensky is calling for more support from the West, and we'll be joined by an advisor from Ukraine's parliament a little bit later on in the show. And should we be concerned over the welfare of our NHS staff? I mean, personally, don't mean any disrespect to NHS staff, of course. I'm more concerned about the welfare of people on NHS waiting lists, but there we go. It's revealed a safety regulator is refusing to investigate the deaths of some NHS staff during the peak of the pandemic. So a GP and a friend of the channel from Leeds will join us to talk through that. Look, we've got all that coming your way and much, much more across the programme. You can get in touch with your views as well. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Yes, morning, everybody. Now, Chancellor Rishi Sunak, of course, did announce this 15 billion quid package of support for households struggling with the cost of living crisis, part funded by a £5 billion windfall tax on energy companies. So this will include a 650 quid one-off payment for families on means-tested benefits. There's lots to get stuck into here, isn't there? Goodness me. And 400 quid for all energy bill payers that will not have to be repaid. And that's the crucial thing, isn't it? Because I don't know about you, but I was worried, frankly, about having to pay it back. I suppose it turns out that maybe I do like a little bit of free money. But anyway, pensioners who receive winter fuel payments will receive a one-off payment of £300. But the energy industry warns that the windfall tax will cause job losses. And, you know, that's a problem, isn't it? Of course it is. Well, joining me now to discuss Rishi's new support package is Stephen Pound, former Labour MP for Ealing North, and Rebecca Armstrong, Director of Mersey Eco Grants. Thank you very, very much. I mean, given your surname, Stephen, we could not have really asked for a better guest for this topic, could we? The question is, have enough pounds been issued?
Well, funny enough, I used to be on the same committee as Bill Cash and Ken Persia. And there was also a bloke in the House of Lords called Popat Dollar. And we tried to get him on the committee, but he wouldn't come on. Look, I don't think it's not a question of doing enough. It's a question of the targeting. The targeting is cack-handed and it's incompetent. He's not done anything to actually stimulate the economy. He should have actually spiked the national insurance rise. He should have actually cut business rates for high-speed companies to actually allow people to grow. Look, I think you're absolutely right. The 200 quid that we were going to have to pay back has now been doubled up to 400 quid that we don't have to pay back. And obviously the winter fuel allowance has been increased. But really and truly, this, windfall tax, which I think we're all in favour of, every party is now in favour of it, is not the issue. It's what we do with it. And one of the great conundrums in politics and in economics is what you do about a universal benefit. Now, people always say, on the one hand, it's bonkers that the Queen and Rishi Sunak and any other multi-millionaire gets the same amount of money as Joe Soap down the bottom of the road. But the difficulty is, it's very, very difficult to actually do the logistics, to actually target it and take the money back. But you can do it very simply by doing tax cuts, spike the national insurance raise, and it's perfectly simple to do it that way. But my final point is, I'm naive in these matters. I mean, I've actually, believe it or not, got a degree in economics, but I know naff all about the energy industry. Why can't we just require the energy companies to reduce the cost of the stuff that they're supplying to us? They say they're swimming in money. Why don't they just cut the bloody price?
Well, there we go. All right, because it's a cracking place to just park you for a second there, Mr. Pound, if that's all right. And we're gonna wheel ourselves over now to Rebecca Armstrong, who's Director of Mersey Eco Grants. What's your take on this, Rebecca? Stephen there said, pretty honest of him. He's a bit like me in a way, really. I don't know a huge amount about the energy industry, but I get the impression that you possibly do.
Hiya. We have a company that installs retrofit insulation across homes in the Northwest. So we're interacting on a daily basis with customers who are suffering with fuel poverty. I think the recent packages, the grants, are going to be really warmly received by people that are struggling with their everyday bills. I think everybody's very anxious about what's happening now and what's coming in October. So I think the package is really welcome.
I mean, I suppose one of the issues, Rebecca, I'll just stick with you for the moment, really, is people are concerned, I think, that it might, drive big businesses away. They have said there'll be job losses, haven't they, as a result of this? But realistically, do you just think that in this, as a one-off thing, right, energy companies who are, I think, wadded, really, can just stump up the cash here?
Well, they are expected to put billions into the retrofit programmes. We've just currently finished Eco 3. Eco 4 was due to start on the 1st of April. It's been delayed. But the grants they've just made available, Rishi's just mentioned, are a short-term solution to a long-term problem. Retrofit is the solution. Being able to offer free energy-saving measures on properties is the best way to reduce energy bills in the long term, and the energy companies are expected to pay.
OK. Stephen, I mean, this, goodness gracious me, this could be a rare flavour of what Labour leadership looks like. I mean, people are accusing now the Tories, aren't they, of going all lefty on this particular issue. Labour's been calling for a windfall tax. Sunak's done a U-turn. I mean, gosh, is this what a Labour government looks like?
Well, I think we may have to wait for a little bit to actually enjoy the luxury of a Labour government, which would obviously be good for the nation. But I have to say, I want to congratulate Rebecca on a sort of brilliant soundbite saying it's warmly received. That's absolutely the right. I'm not going to pour cold water on it now. No, this is. But look. The windfall tax isn't the issue. It's actually what we do with the money. And what worries me is that this is a sticking plaster solution. It's not an answer to the problem. It's not the surgery and it's not the proper care. All it does is actually alleviate the pain in the short term. And I think Rebecca was making that point. The reality is that we've got fundamental problems with our economy, deep-rooted problems. We could be using this money to actually address some of the inequalities. But above all, I want to see stimulation. I want to see small businesses growing. I want to see small, does that make me a conservative? Does it make me a socialist? I think it just makes me a patriot and someone who cares about this country. And if we want to actually see small businesses grow, cut the flipping business rates.
Well, you could say that, absolutely, but you could also say that people like you, Stephen, you would have wanted us locked down, wouldn't you, for longer? You would have wanted them to be shut for longer. I mean, this economic crisis is because of you, isn't it?
Absolutely not. I was pottering around on my allotment at the time, socially distancing with scarcely a suitcase full of booze in sight. No, I mean, you say people like me would have wanted to lock down. No, I mean, I personally preferred the Swedish model.
I'm sorry, I know a lot of blokes who do. Right, and Rebecca as well, of course. That's all right. Rebecca, yeah, just to bring you back in now, right? So, do you think we're going to see a lot of families here now, seriously though, who are just bang up against it, even though they've got 400 quid or a grand? Because people might say, look, actually, I've only got... In fact, there's an article about this today. I've only got £12.60 in my bank account right now. A one-off payment isn't enough. People are calling this to be rolling and rolling and rolling on, Rebecca.
No, I don't think it should be rolling on at all. Like I said to you, it is a short-term solution. It's going to be really warmly welcomed because free money is always good. It's definitely going to help. The cost of gas has increased, gas and electricity, and in my opinion, it'll continue to rise. I don't think we'll see those prices coming down because we've got to remember the overall agenda, nationally and globally, is carbon neutrality, net zero by 2050. 2030 is a significant date. So they want to move away from fossil fuels. I think the cost of energy bills is going to stay high, and the solution is to.
Yeah, I'm concerned, Stephen, that we're going to be held to ransom by these big companies. BP, I'm just looking at some headlines in front of me right now. BP to review North Sea investments following windfall tax announcements. We've got that there, already there. Cost of living payments for millions. Sunak announces windfall tax on oil and gas companies, sparking outrage, it says there. That's from The Guardian. They're talking about outrage from these companies. Is there a chance that we're going to be held to ransom by the likes of BP? Rishi Sunak, he's a phenomenally wealthy chap. He'll cave into them, surely.
Well, look, obviously there's a bit of a fat cat squeal going on here, and I think we're used to that. But look, the people I used to represent, my neighbours, we're more concerned about 8:30, not 2030. It's 8:30 tonight that we're actually worried about. It's right here, right now. 2030 is a fair long way down the road. Look, well, I simply just can't understand the basic point here. I understand that there's a global problem. I understand there's a move to sort of carbon neutralise everything, from pensions to daily consumption, and all, fair play to that. But if you're selling a product, you set the price at which you sell it. Now, that price is predicated on the cost to you of the raw materials and the amount of profit you want to make. We've just been told by BP and the other people that they are swimming in dosh. They don't know what to do with it. They're shoving it out the door. So why on earth? Just tell me. I mean, you know more about this than me. You lead the nation on these things. I just follow you. But why can't they simply reduce the cost to the consumer?
Okay, go on. I'll lob that one over to you then, Rebecca.
I think because they want to move people away from gas onto renewables. And that is the agenda. Technology is changing. The way we heat homes is changing. So if they reduce the cost of gas, more people will continue to use gas.
OK, good stuff. Look, both of you, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you very, very much. First of all, that's Rebecca Armstrong, Director of Mersey Eco Grants. But also, Stephen Pound, bring him back on. Bring him back on if we can, because he's got the GB News mug, which has kicked off in my inbox. He's sipped on it at least 3 times already during this interview. Bit of branding. Thank you very much, Stephen. We've been inundated now, Stephen. I can't move for people asking me where they can get a mug from. So I'll have to have a word with some people outside later and see if we can get a few posted out to our wonderful viewers and wonderful listeners as well. Look, the overarching point there, and right, I'm going to be honest with you. I find the energy stuff a bit dull sometimes, OK? I find things like the windfall tax a bit dull sometimes. I'm not, an economic expert. That's what Liam Halligan's for, I'm not a massive expert in the energy sector. That's what people like Andy Mair from the IEA are all about, OK? I'm not really massively into that stuff, but I am into the human element of it. What I'm inundated with every single day is people saying to me they're struggling to make ends meet. That's the kind of thing I like talking about, as in how we can make that better, of course, and trying to relate to you guys, really. And that, for me, is the key point about all of this. Is this enough money for you? Do you think, actually, we should be doing this? Should people be fending for themselves a bit, I suppose, trying to stand on their own 2 feet? Can people just not stand on their own 2 feet? I want to hear from you. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Just let me know the human side of this now. Are you struggling? We can keep it anonymous, that's fine. Are you struggling a little bit? Actually, are you finding it OK? Will you give back this 400 quid? All of these kind of questions, OK? We've had the experts on and we need a bit of that because we are a news channel, of course. But really, we're the People's Channel, and I want to hear from you, the people. gbviews@gbnews.uk. But after the break, the latest on the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia as President Zelensky urges tougher sanctions on Moscow. But first, it's your weather.
Hello, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Showers will remain across northern parts of the UK, especially the far north of Scotland, where it will also be breezy. But otherwise, plenty of warm sunshine as high pressure builds in from the southwest. And that's going to settle things down heading into the start of the weekend, at least, with any showers mostly confined to the far north of the UK during the rest of the day on Friday. Also, a fair amount of cloud for North Wales, Northern England, Northern Ireland and much of Scotland, and it will be breezy here, particularly around higher parts of Scotland and to the east of higher ground. Those showers mostly affecting areas to the north of the Central Belt, where it will feel cool, but towards the south, 19 to 22 Celsius for the southern half of the UK, mid-teens for the northern half. Into the evening, and showers in the far north tend to fade away, and it's a dry night with clear spells for most, and with the wind easing as well, temperatures will fall away. We're looking at widely mid to high single figures, and in some sheltered rural parts, just about anywhere, could see low single figures, perhaps even a touch of air frost across sheltered parts of Scotland. So a chilly start to the weekend, but soon enough the sun will get to work and it will warm up, and plenty of sunny spells will be found across the country. I think a bit more cloud filtering into eastern and northern parts of the country during the afternoon, and the odd shower is possible for higher parts of northern England and southern Scotland, but for the vast majority it's dry. Warm sunny spells, 21 or 22 Celsius in the south, 17 for Glasgow, 16 for Belfast. Into Saturday evening, 1 or 2 showers there for southern parts of Scotland, northern England, but for the vast majority, again, it's dry with clear spells. But into Sunday, the chance of a few more showers breaking out, particularly in the east, more widely showers on Monday and Tuesday.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
we embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you. And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Jubilee, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Jubilee, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christys.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News. Oh, a very good morning, you lovely people. This is 11:24. In fact, it's about to go 11:25. And this is To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, on GB News. We're live on your TV, online and radio this morning. And just before we get stuck into Ukraine, I've started something here. I don't know what I've done. I raised the issue of a GB News mug. We had MP Stephen Pound sipping relentlessly from one during our interview. And now I can't move in our inbox, GBViews, gbnews.uk, for mug requests. OK, so I'm not sure if you can get any, but I'll try and have a word afterwards, all right? So anyway, we're moving on from that now to matters much, much more serious. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has slammed the West for lacking unity as Russian troops advance in eastern Ukraine. So Zelensky has called for more heavy weapons, saying billions of dollars worth already put up were not enough to help Ukraine's outgunned forces. Now, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss is continuing a 2-day Europe trip with a visit to Prague, and she's praised, basically, the country for its tough stance towards Russia, including supplying Ukrainian tanks, etc., etc. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz addressed a World Economic Forum in Davos this week, heavily criticising Putin for his rash invasion of Ukraine. But joining me now is Mykola Volkivsky, who is advisor in the Ukrainian Parliament, who attended the World Economic Forum this week. And I think we'll be going to them very, very shortly. Obviously, a couple of issues. Oh, he's there now. Thank you very, very much. Great to have you on the show. There we are. Right, so...
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, first and foremost? Are you OK?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Ukrainian delegation just yesterday back from Switzerland from World Economic Forum. It's great pleasure because it's all time the reopened. But the first time for winter infrastructure, it was difficult, to make such a big forum during the summer season. It's why maybe some little people attended this forum this year. Okay, most of these topics was about the Ukraine. Also, the Ukrainian house was reopened after 4 years. And the biggest, for me, the idea what the forum Ukraine presents as we organize a Russian war crimes house, Russian place, but they show what they did during this period from 24th of February. Of course, Ukrainian President Zelensky gave a speech 3 times during the World Economic Forum. There was a good connections with also with President Andrzej Duda, with all of the politicians. But as for me, it was biggest, the challenges for the Ukrainians, because we can observe that sometimes some of businessmen, gave their advice for us to make the bilateral talks with Russia, to talk about the territory or something. But everybody's understand the Ukraine does need to be the territory which we received during the Ukrainian independence, but it's the most important task. Even the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kuleba, they give it a speech, to talk about the Ukraine, about the future cooperation. As for me, it was a great experience because we had the opportunity to talk with the White House representatives, even Kurt Volker, John Hertz, the former ambassador, talk about the future. They try to organize, some more talks about the think tank, about the Ukraine. We will see what will be the next. You mentioned Olaf Scholz. Yes, Olaf Scholz just back from Senegal because Germany tried to find the other potential countries what they cooperate on the level of the cooperation, to don't mention it, the Russia. I mean, the Africa region, for them, like for Germany, for Olaf Scholz, it can be the good country to cooperate. Okay. And actually, we received some information that can be the summit between Italy, Germany, and France and Russia. You don't know if it's true or not, but it was like bilateral talk and was some negotiations during the World Economic Forum. I cannot, to prove this information now, but they would like to, to meet with Putin soon. But for me, it wasn't a good idea for them.
OK, sorry, I didn't quite catch that bit at the end. It sounded to me like a little bit of an exclusive, actually. What were you saying there? So, sorry, you got some information through, did you, about, what was it, Germany, Italy and Spain, did you say? Sorry, I couldn't quite pick it up.
Germany, Italy and Spain gonna meet with Putin in the next maybe few weeks. We don't know if it's true or not, but... Yeah. OK, and that's the noise on the ground now, is that Italy, Germany and Spain are going to meet with Putin together, as you understand? Italy, Germany and France, I'm sorry.
Oh, France. OK, I did wonder why Spain were getting involved, but yes, that makes more sense. Yeah, so when is that supposed to take place, do you think? And also, are they planning on meeting together, do you think, as a united front?
Oh, I don't know, actually, but, the most important that Ukraine all the time, we receive it more and more military help from all of the countries. And knowing Russia exactly they react, they try to destroy them, for example, the strategically center for logistics, like, for example, for railway. Even in my native city, Correspondent, in Zhytomyr region, they try to destroy, for example, railway to don't have, access to put all of this help directly to Kyiv by the railway. But actually, what is going on in international politics, what is going on in international negotiations about the future of Ukraine? We can see that I'm pretty sure. I know that all of this people, all of this politician united with Ukraine. But if they, for example, try to give us an advices, to make the negotiations or maybe bilateral peace talks with Russia, just on the first case, we need to have our territory, which we received it since our independence. The other option, it's not acceptable.
OK. Now, I wonder how you're going to combat this, because we have a situation at the moment. I spoke actually to a couple of Russians within the last couple of weeks, and they are living over here. So they've got access to all of our media. They can watch shows like this every single day if they want to. And honestly, they were saying to me, which we know isn't true, by the way, but they were saying to me that they're cleansing Ukraine. One of them said that the country was full of, quote, Nazi child killers. And these are people that actually live over here now. How on earth does Ukraine combat that kind of mentality, which clearly exists in a lot of the Russian population?
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem of disinformation with Russia, like since after Soviet Union. All the time they make a propaganda inside the country that all of Ukrainians are Nazi, for example. You just need to remind you that all the time the Russians mention denazification and a military special operation since 24th February in Ukraine. Everybody's understand, the whole world is understand it isn't true. It's all of fakes what they produce all the time about it. Sometimes they try to show on the Russian federal TV that Ukrainians it's a Nazi because they have a tattoo or like to say they are Nazi, but it isn't true. It's just all the time they mention in the case of Azov, of Ukrainian soldiers of Azovstal, they try to show the people from like Russia, for example, that whole of Ukrainian nation is a Nazi. But everybody should understand it isn't true because we're like democratic country. Yeah.
And just quickly, we're a bit pressed for time, but I'm concerned, very concerned, that it looks as though the Russians might have started winning, really, in Ukraine. Have they?
I don't think they're gonna lose. They never win in Ukraine. They try to, they all the time. It's, for example, some published TV channel. They try to continue they war in Donbass or Donetsk. They try to move more closely to Nikolaev or to Odessa to close the entry for the Black Sea. But we know the Ukrainians with the spirit they're gonna win of this war because they just will be the one country gonna win. It will be the Ukraine. That's why.
Okay, good lad. All right, well, look, keep up the good work, and thank you very, very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate having you on. It's Mykola Volkivsky there, who's an advisor in the Ukrainian parliament, of course, attended the World Economic Forum this week. Right, OK, well, look, after the break, I'll be looking into the welfare of NHS staff during the peak of the pandemic as a safety regulator has refused to investigate COVID-related staff deaths. But before that, there's a look at this morning's news.
Good morning, it's 11:33. I'm Rhiannon Jones in the GB newsroom. The Chancellor's refused to rule out a further emergency cost of living package next year. That's despite alarm among some Tories at the impact on public finances. That as Rishi Sunak denies using yesterday's £21 billion support package as distraction from lockdown parties at Number 10. He says the timing was purely down to greater certainty over energy prices in the autumn. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned Russia's weaponizing the global food crisis. He's urging Western allies to impose tougher sanctions on Russia and said the world must prevent large-scale famine. It comes as Ukraine's military says their troops are retreating from the east and that key routes are being shelled. President Zelensky's demanded the Kremlin ends what he calls a senseless war.
Ukraine will always be an independent state, and it can't be broken. The only question is what price our people will have to pay for their freedom, and Russia for this senseless war against us. And the second, the catastrophic unfolding events could still be stopped if the world treated the situation in Ukraine as its own. If the powers of this world did not play around with Russia, but really pressed to end the war.
America's biggest gun lobby, the National Rifle Association, will hold its annual convention in Texas today. Tens of thousands are expected to attend the event just days after 21 people were killed in a school shooting in the state. 19 students and 2 teachers died when a gunman opened fire at Robb Elementary School in the town of Uvalde. And a remote Scottish island's looking for a head teacher of its school of just 4 pupils. Fowler, which is one of the most isolated places in Britain, has a population of just 28 and 1 classroom. And after the last head teacher retired, well, they're on the lookout for a new one. The job offers £61,000 a year plus relocation expenses. Tempted? TV online and DAB Plus radio. This is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.260 to the dollar. The pound is 1.177 to the euro. And the price of gold currently stands at £1,475.83 per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for physical investment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
we embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Yes, morning everyone. We've got an update on Muggate, OK? So earlier on in the show, we had a guest, Stephen Pound, Labour MP, who was sipping from one of our wonderful GB News mugs, relentlessly, actually, throughout the show. I hope it was only coffee in there. I'm sure it was. But and we've been inundated now with people in my inbox just right here saying, please, can I have one? I'd be proud to drink from one. And then an update. Shocking stuff, this. Thank you very much, Rob. Apparently someone's selling them on eBay. So there we go. Who knew the GB News mug has kicked off? It's a fashion statement now. People will be wearing them as earrings on the catwalks in Milan sometime soon. But there we go. Anyway, it's 11:39 and you're watching To The Point with me, Patrick Christys, right here on GB News and our fantastic mugs. We're live on your TV, online and radio this morning. Now, Britain's Safety at Work regulator has refused to investigate reports from NHS trusts that frontline health staff died as a result of catching COVID during the peak of the pandemic. So the regulator has also declined to look into at least 89 dangerous incidents where staff were exposed to risk, claiming there is a lack of evidence. Now, morale within the NHS has always been considered low. Long hours and pay being their main concerns, obviously, but failing to investigate the death of staff may well tip a lot of them over the edge. And joining me now to discuss the welfare and safety of NHS staff is Dr. Richard Vaughtray, Assistant Secretary at the Leeds Local Medical Committee. Thank you very much for joining me. Right, so, OK, just run us through, ground us, earth us in this. What's the actual problem there? So NHS staff died believed to be from COVID, is that right? And people aren't investigating it?
This is a real concern. We all know that countless people died during the pandemic, and that included healthcare staff, people on the front line providing care to patients in hospitals, in general practice settings, and elsewhere. And particularly at the beginning of the pandemic, they weren't provided with the necessary PPE of sufficient standards to be able to protect them when they were in direct contact with their patients. Now, in any other setting, if you're in a construction industry or other settings sort of where someone had an accident at work and when they died as a result of an incident at work, you would expect the health and safety executive to investigate that and to see whether any lessons needed to be learned. And we haven't seen a similar intervention take place for healthcare staff. And I think that is a concern.
OK, all right, that's interesting. I mean, well, what is this doing for morale in the NHS at the minute? I know the morale of patients is pretty low, to be honest with you, at the minute. How's the morale of staff?
Our staff, both in hospitals, community, general practice settings, the morale is really low. We don't feel that we've had the opportunity to recharge our batteries, to rebuild our both physical and mental well-being following the worst of the pandemic, because, as we all know, the situation in the NHS continues to be very pressurised. We've got huge backlogs of care. We want to be able to see as many patients as possible. GP practices seeing more patients than ever. Hospitals are trying to deal with huge waiting lists. And we need as much support as we possibly can from government at this stage. And one of the ways that we can be supported is to take these really important issues of staff protection seriously. And at the moment, we don't believe that that's being done with sufficient strength.
So do you think this is essentially a big cover-up? Do you think this is really what's going on here, where NHS staff were not given the right protective gear, for example? They weren't given... They were put massively at risk at the height of a pandemic, OK? And that cost lives. And now they don't want to investigate it because they don't want to have to admit it.
It's vital that these types of incidents are investigated so that lessons can be learned. So when we have another pandemic, maybe for a different condition, a different situation, we need to have the lessons learned, and we need to ensure all of our staff, wherever they work, are as
I get that.
as possible. So it's imperative that the necessary investigations are done.
I do get that. I absolutely do understand that. However, the NHS has long been accused of a cover-up culture of its own, hasn't it, when it comes to mistakes, blunders, deaths, basically there. I mean, I've actually had some familial experience of that, actually, to be fair, a couple of times. And I think a lot of people have, in a way. So I'm just wondering whether or not, actually, maybe this is a bit par for the course when it comes to anything medical, really.
But this isn't the health service that would be investigating. This is an independent body. The health service investigators would be an external body that would be examining this. And
No, I know. Sorry, I just want to clarify what I meant. Sorry,
you're right. We need a general policy right across the NHS of a no-blame culture that allows people to flag up concerns, and so that people can learn the lessons from each and every incident that takes place.
Yeah. No, sorry. Just to clarify what I meant there, I'm aware that the NHS is not the ones investigating itself on this one. What I am saying is some people might lack a bit of sympathy because they've seen things like an NHS cover-up culture in the past be spoken about by people like Jeremy Hunt, etc. That's what I meant. I'm aware that the NHS is not investigating this particular issue itself, obviously. But do you think that actually there's going to be a massive problem recruiting people now? I mean, there probably already is, because we're seeing things like people saying that there's not enough pay, right, OK. People saying that, the working conditions are terrible. There's a massive NHS backlog. I know that people have very strong views about that on this channel, of course. But also now that essentially, if you take ill and die at work, people might not look into it for you.
Yes, there is a real concern about the workforce recruitment and retention of staff. If staff don't feel looked after, don't feel supported, don't feel that their concerns are being properly addressed, then they will be more likely to leave the NHS as a whole. And we can ill afford to lose experienced healthcare staff at a time when the workload is rapidly increasing. We need all hands to the pump, and we need everybody to feel properly supported to be able to do their jobs, which is what they want to be able to do, which is providing good quality care to their patients.
Yeah, great stuff. All right, well, look, thank you very much for getting in touch with us and coming on the show as well, Dr. Richard Vaughtry, Assistant Secretary at Leeds Medical Community there. Thank you very much. Committee, sorry, I should say. Anyway, right, we're just going to veer away a little bit from the NHS. It's a tricky one for me, that, actually, personally, because, there are massive issues, as far as I'm concerned, with the NHS at the minute. I talk about them very regularly. I think it's inexcusable, the amount of people on an NHS waiting list. And actually, the pandemic was kind of like the final nail in that coffin, in a way. But it's been going on for a long time. There have been cover-up cultures, etc. And so, yeah, I'm a bit squiffy kind of almost standing up for it, really, in a sense. But there we go. Anyway, we're moving on from that now. You can get your views coming in, gbviews at gbnews.uk. But our good friend Nathan Dunn is still raising money. You all know Nathan Dunn by now. I never stop banging on about him. He is the one who's walking all the way from John O'Groats in Scotland down to Land's End barefoot. And he's doing it as well in the process going to set a world record, but he's doing it for mental health charity Mind after struggling with mental health problems himself following a rather traumatic childhood, it's fair to say. Now, he's raised over 20 grand. Well, between the two of us, we have anyway, actually, because we've kind of synced our accounts. I've got a account going as well, which we'll be hearing more about on Friday Night Feast this evening, 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. And you can donate to that as well, which is justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christys. The target is to get up to 50k. And I think, you know, we're on course really here, but he's obviously raised over £20,000 already. 600 miles in the bag. His own fundraising one as well, justgiving.com/fundraising/walk a mile in my shoes 22. And I'm happy to say that Nathan joins us now. Nathan, how are you?
Hi, Patrick.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
And you, mate, and you. No, it was a bit of a special day for you, wasn't it, yesterday?
Yeah, it was. Yesterday was the day that I walked, or, well, actually, I ran. I ran all yesterday to my house.
Oh, mate. And did you run just because you were so eager to get there?
Yeah, I knew I had, you know, my day's quite long walking, and I thought I want to get there as quick as I can today, so I had my friend cycling next to me and he took my bag for me, and I ran the whole way home and got to my front door, and yeah, it's been great to see family and friends and sleep in my bed for one night, and it's been amazing.
And how are the feet?
Yeah, they're doing good. They're getting stronger, starting to adapt more to what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm feeling very good. I'm nearly halfway, just under halfway, and I'm feeling strong, and I'm feeling really motivated to keep going now.
No, absolutely, and it's really interesting you should say you're just under halfway, because you're just under halfway of actually reaching your big target, which was 50 grand, as far as I remember. You're on about 20,000 and something now, and so really, we should really have this in the bag, shouldn't we, mate? For want of a better phrase, as long as you keep doing your bit, and then I, rather bizarrely, for people who don't know as well, I'm doing something about nowhere near as impressive as what Nathan is doing, but yeah, trying to drop a stone and a half in 2 months. I'm not far off, actually, people, but there we go. And then I'm going on stage with the Dream Boys, who are male strippers. So Nathan's doing something very worthy. You could argue I'm doing something quite cheap and tasteless, but there we go. Money's money at the end of the day. But yeah, Nathan, hopefully you can get to this 50 grand. How can people donate to you, and why should they as well? Because Mind is a very worthy cause, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's as I've said before, there's a big gap between what you can get help-wise from the state and what you can get help-wise from these charities, and you know, these charities are there helping people like on the day that they need it, and unfortunately it takes a lot longer to get help through the NHS due to all of the stretches and loads of reasons. So you know, this money is directly helping people get help when they need it, which is the important part. It's all good getting help, you know, in the future, but what we really want is people to get help exactly when they need it, not be waiting months, years for it, you know?
Yeah, you can't just sit there and wait for months. People just can't afford to do that, really, for the sake of their lives, because it can all end incredibly badly. And, yeah, you know, I know that, you know, the sun is shining above you there now. It looks lovely where you are. And you're obviously in a great mood at the minute, and so you should be. You should be very proud of absolutely everything that you've achieved. But just for people who are obviously thinking of donating now, for you personally, it wasn't always like this. I know that we spoke about this loads of times, but I think if we've got new viewers and new listeners, it might be just worthwhile them understanding where you were at for a bit.
Yeah, you know, as you just said, it's a beautiful sunny day. A year ago, I'd have walked out here today and complained about the weather and thought it's not very good, and that's what my life was like. Everything that was in my life was never, you know, it was always grey. There was always a dark cloud following me, and that just got worse and worse and worse for me. And you know, I have had a difficult life, but you know, many people have, and it just all came to a big sort of crash. And then before I knew it, I was standing on a bridge, and I just didn't want to be here anymore. I felt like I was weighing down all of the people in my life who I loved and cared about. I really did genuinely believe that they would be better without me, and it's only when I got help that I realised that that's just not the case. You know, they you know, I am important to people, and I am. Every human being life is so precious. So, yeah, I reached out, I got help, and you know, I'm not fixed. I still have me struggles each day, but I do know how to cope with those struggles now, and that's the important difference from the past to now. So, yeah, this challenge is just a physical representation of the pains that I've went through in my mind, I suppose, and I want people just to reach out, just speak. It is that simple. It is. It's really simple, but it's really hard.
Look, good lad, Nathan. Thank you so much, and thank you for everything that you're doing to raise money and raise awareness for mental health, and keep up the good work. We'll be checking in with you all the time. Obviously, you're doing amazingly, mate, and the whole nation's behind you. We certainly are here at GB News, so keep going, OK? Keep going. And you may have heard, obviously, I am fundraising as well for the same mental health charity. Nathan and I have synced accounts, and that link there is justgiving.com/fundraising/challenge Christys. And between us, you and I, thank you very much, everybody. You've been absolutely smashing it. We've got over 15 grand, so 15.5 grand. Goodness gracious me. So there we go. And those donations really are coming in. I'm going to lose 1.5 stone in 2 months. I've lost just over 1 stone, actually, at the minute. So I'm getting there anyway. And I've only got a couple of weeks left. So then I'll get on stage and dance with the Dream Boys and ritualistically humiliate myself in the name of male mental health. But there we go. Anyway, now, let's take you through some of the headlines of the day that you may have missed. We've all been reading about the chaos at Gatwick Airport, and others, of course, where furious passengers blame staff shortages at check-in desks and border control for their absolute misery. But now an airline pilot has taken to the airwaves to rant about a 7-hour runway delay. The Wizz Air captain lost his temper over the tannoy as passengers waited to take off for a flight to Cyprus from Gatwick Airport. And he told passengers, you know, I don't need this, before saying that he'd let anyone off the plane if they wanted to get off. I mean, I'm pretty sure those passengers didn't need it either, to be honest with you, mate, but there we go. Passengers flying from Gatwick, Manchester, Cardiff and other airports have complained about huge delays. Staff shortages, they say, flight cancellations are causing it. You don't need it when you've got holiday at all, do you? It's stressful enough. It never used to be that stressful for me. You turn up, you remember your passport, bish, bash, bosh, you're on a plane and you go somewhere sunny. But now, you had to get a PCR test done. Even if you had COVID that was like a month ago, it can still show up on your PCR test. And then you get to the airport, you've got to have all these documentations. It's an absolute nightmare. And then you add on top of it the delays, the never-ending security checks. OK, I understand the security checks, don't get me wrong, but the delays. And staff shortages, I could understand that for a period of time. But we're months into this now, OK? They need to get it sorted. Anyway, a Japanese man has decided that he doesn't want to live as a human being anymore. Maybe he was going through airport security. Anyway, instead, he's decided that he'd rather be a dog. This man, who goes by the name of Tucker-san, has spent more than 12 grand on, oh, good grief, on a costume that means he can now live his life as a border collie. And he's got all the mannerisms of the dog as well, in a sense. A bizarre video clip of Tucker-san dressed in the dog costume emerged on YouTube and shows him standing on all fours before waving his paw at the camera. There we go. So that's obviously a man who's really got his life together, isn't it? And you can just see, hey, each to their own, though, to be fair. Each to their own. I mean, what do you think about this? GBviews@GBnews.uk. It's an interesting way to live your life. I've often wondered whether or not it would just be easier to be a dog, because you don't kind of get all the mental stress and, paying a mortgage and this, that and the other, do you? You can just essentially go around and play with your other dog mates. Although, to be fair, I am wondering whether or not Japan is the safest place in the world to be a dog. But now, before we go, another reminder that every single Wednesday we hand over our show to you. And we want you to tell us what to talk about, what you think are the most important stories. So people tell us the subjects that they need covering, the questions that need answering, and who we should be talking to. So get your ideas coming in over the weekend, all right, if anything comes to you. To the point at gbnews.uk. But I've got a cheeky little plug, because I'll be back again later on this evening, 7 until 9 p.m. for Friday Night Feast. And ladies and gents, I'm going to be trying to set a few world records live on air. Don't miss it, 7 p.m. See you there.
Hello, I'm Aidan McGivern from the Met Office. Showers will remain across northern parts of the UK, especially the far north of Scotland, where it will also be breezy. But otherwise, plenty of warm sunshine as high pressure builds in from the southwest. And that's going to settle things down heading into the start of the weekend, at least. with any showers mostly confined to the far north of the UK during the rest of the day on Friday. Also a fair amount of cloud for North Wales, Northern England, Northern Ireland and much of Scotland, and it will be breezy here, particularly around higher parts of Scotland and to the east of higher ground. Those showers mostly affecting areas to the north of the Central Belt where it will feel cool, but towards the south, 19 to 22 Celsius for the southern half of the UK, mid-teens for the northern half. Into the evening, and showers in the far north tend to fade away, and it's a dry night with clear spells for most, and with the wind easing as well, temperatures will fall away. We're looking at widely mid to high single figures, and in some sheltered rural parts, just about anywhere, could see low single figures, perhaps even a touch of air frost across sheltered parts of Scotland. So a chilly start to the weekend, but soon enough the sun will get to work and it will warm up, and plenty of sunny spells will be found across the country. I think a bit more cloud filtering into eastern and northern parts of the country during the afternoon, and the odd shower is possible for higher parts of northern England and southern Scotland, but for the vast majority it's dry. Warm sunny spells, 21 or 22 Celsius in the south, 17 for Glasgow, 16 for Belfast. Into Saturday evening, 1 or 2 showers there for southern parts of Scotland, northern England, but for the vast majority, again, it's dry with clear spells. But into Sunday, the chance of a few more showers breaking out, particularly in the east, more widely showers on Monday and Tuesday.
Join us for a special GB News event.
The celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
From pageantry here at the Palace
to the parties in your street,
we'll bring you 4 days of
unforgettable moments
between the 2nd and the 5th of June.
Join us live up and down the country as we share your memories
of Her Majesty's extraordinary reign.
Send us your stories, photographs and videos
at jubilee@gbnews.uk.
Come and celebrate with us
on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
we embrace all voices.
with honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you. And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate.